This is Power 102 Digital Friday. Today, for Hard Talk, our hosts are members of the Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. On the set with me is Marlon Anderson and Edward Jones, or Ted Jones, soon to be joined by Rondell Feeds. Today, the topic, our view on their view. So I'm standing by for these distinguished gentlemen to join me on the set for Hard Talk, Power 102 Digital Friday, Fathers Association. They're on. Good afternoon, Ted. How are you doing?
Bro, how you going, man? You hearing me
I'm good.
well? Yes, man. It's a pleasure to be here, and the thousands and thousands listening to us on Power 102. As usual, I'm not here every Friday, but I'm telling you, when we guys touch down, according to the old, well, I don't know if it's you'll call it old, but the soca song, the whole place shell down. Eh? So how are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Yes, man. Time to shell
Yeah,
down.
man. Yeah, yes, man. But it's a pleasure to be here. I guess Rondell will be joining us. Brother Anderson, how you going, man?
Unmute your
I
microphone.
think, yeah.
Yeah, Marlon, you need to unmute your microphone.
Maybe he
Let me see if
hasn't.
I can help him here. Okay. Okay. He needs to, you need to unmute your microphone, Marlon.
Yeah,
Good.
sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to everyone, the listeners, and everyone today.
Yes, nice to
I
hear
know I'm
you.
not sure, man, so only been still sweating from that hot sun outside. Taking time to cool down.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well, I know in Tobago it's actually a little bit overcast, so it's not as hot. But I understand it rained plenty yesterday in Trinidad, so it was hot in Tobago yesterday. So we switching around the weather. Yeah, man. So Trinidad and Tobago, all of you listening to us on Power 102. How has it been? There's so much going on. There's so much going on. Guys, I'm telling you this that hmm, even Tobago, I would hate to say it, but even what is tranquil Tobago, is becoming a little bit too newsy, but we'll see how that goes.
It seems like
You're hearing me,
Marlon.
Matt?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Marlon seems
Right,
to be having
yes.
some technical difficulties, so
Something,
we are waiting
yes.
to come back on stage. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Right.
Hmm.
So I was telling you, Marlon, and the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, that Tobago, we always in Tobago always preferred to be, have this tranquil, serene kind of vibe, you know.
Hmm.
But to hear all the news events and news that's sometimes negative happening, it's again very, very um it's another testament to the fact that we need programs like these and we need to do what we can do to help our young men, because the truth is no matter what happens, not only are our young men the perpetrators of so much of what is going on negatively in our society, they are also the victims of so much that's going on today. For example, um, a 19-year-old again in Tobago somewhere in Lambo was shot. What's going on, you know?
Hmm.
So it's not an easy, according to Bourgeois, it's not an easy road.
I tell you, I tell you. I remember back in the days as a young cricketer, I used to play a lot of cricket, and I came across there for the very first time to play cricket for my school, and I found like Tobago is such a paradise.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it was part of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. So it's a
Even
different
the
kind of.
lingua. I was even caught up with the lingua, and then after
Mhm.
a time I came back as a DJ, and I used to be like based in Plymouth and Castara, And I used to enjoy that quiet, like you said,
Yes,
peaceful, non-violent, serene. You know, we used to leave the place where we stayed, you know, that guest house. We used to leave it open, go on the beach, go and live, go and drink beers or kind of thing. And nobody would have gone into those places, you know. Now it's quite a
that's
different
right.
game. Yeah.
Yes, but not only that, it's the idea now that they are, so sometimes you will leave your your car open, or your car open, or your possessions exposed, and somebody, would pass, a kleptomaniac, or whatever you call them, will
Mhm.
pass and pick it up. You have things exposed, they'll pick it up. But then you're now talking about a more invasive nature,
Mhm.
a more violent, almost like, those, how to call it, like those bulldogs. They charge at you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
Yesterday or day before, the robbery at the jewelry shop, for example. Well,
Yes.
and that video went pretty viral. You
Yes.
realize that these guys are coming
Hmm.
at you. And it's not to say that anybody in Tobago has, this major set of money. These people, most business people in Tobago, are people who are trying to make it, you
Mhm.
know. So to have this overt aggression against people that are trying to make it is
Mhm.
kind of frightening. But let's see how it goes. We will
Yes.
do our part in this part of the vineyard, and I see my friend and brother Rondell Fields is on with us. Rondell, good afternoon,
Yes.
bro.
Mhm.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Good to see you, Ted. I realize you're showing off in Tobago. All those lovely things are here. I mean, but
Well, yes, we doing some good things too, definitely.
yeah, for sure. So I must say good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon. Just joined by also one of our comrades, Marlon Anderson, as well. So I have Marlon with me today. I have Ted with me today. We have Mr. Big Daddy McIntyre, David, with us always, standing with us, always grateful for the airtime, always grateful for the opportunity to be able to, what we call it, boy, exhale, to be able to ventilate, to be able to share our
Vent is a
expression.
good word.
And to vent.
So yeah, to blow some steam, sorry, at times. And I mean to have very hard conversations. I didn't tell them to name it hard talk. It was brought to us. So I mean we have to make sure that we live up to the name. You understand? So most
That's right.
definitely, I think we know what we're here for. The topic today is our view of their view. And
That's
we
right.
don't want to make you think. We don't want to make it think that we're here to really speak about the show per se. I mean, we can talk a little bit about the show. We have seen a lot of mixed reviews on the show since it's been out. Is it because of what is said on the show, or is it because the show has taken a similar name to a very controversial show in the United States of America, which is known for a particular type of behavior? Um, what say you? I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. If Marlon, you've ever looked at an episode. If Dave, you've ever looked at an episode. Ted, you've ever looked at one of the episodes of the Our View show. If you have, you want to give your view before we get into that particular episode. As I say, it's not our stance to talk about the View show today. But I mean, as we are before we get into it, I think we need to let me get you all personal views on what you've seen so far. Because the season ended last week. What do you
Yes.
think?
Well, I have not. Well, it's because it's one of those kind of sit down shows where women kind of chat. It's not really one of my favorite. Just like in the States where they talk and all of those shows when women just talk,
Yeah,
but by virtue of the fact of a man who has women in his vicinity, girls and wife and mother and sister, sometimes the show is in your zone, so you sometimes have to
yeah,
sit down and listen.
yeah.
And one thing I would say, and this is the beauty about the society we're in, is that I hear them and I really value the fact that that they can have an opinion. Now,
Okay.
of course, that's where I will start. Of course, as we get more into the program, I will definitely um, want to delve into the particular episode, because it's, as you rightfully said, it's not our job to really promote the show either, right?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
But certainly, I mean, they have their things and they say, just as I guess the Democrats have a right to say what they feel about Trump, and the people who are Republicans have the right to say what they feel about Kamala,
Right.
and UNC people have a right to say what they feel about the PNM, and the PNM have a right to say what they feel. Everybody here just has a right. And of course, women, no matter how misinformed it may be, and in all cases there be a certain amount of miscalculation and misinformation, still
Right.
have their right to say what they feel about men. And the beautiful thing about this particular program in its, and even the name of it, is that we also have a beautiful chance to be able to rebut and to
Right.
react and to respond. And I think that's the beauty of dialogue and debate.
Nice. Well said. Well,
Yeah.
I was now about to pitch a question to Marlon. Marlon, you on there or you off? He's on, Mark?
Well, he's having problems. See,
Connectivity problems. Have you
just
ever seen the show, Mark? You want to weigh in? If you've ever
no, I've
noticed
never
it?
looked at that show. I've seen it promoted and stuff, but I never took time out to look at it.
You're right. Yeah, well, similarly for me, I would have seen bits, I would have seen snippets. Some things I would have agreed with, some things I would have disagreed with. Um, I think, I mean, my view, my personal view, and going based on what I've seen more so in the commentary, I think a number of women seem, I wouldn't say displeased. They may think that their side or their version of womanhood sometimes isn't depicted in the show, isn't captured in the show. And I
Okay.
mean, it may be challenging for them to do as well. I mean, you pull a woman out of every demographic, so to speak. I don't know what was the producer's thinking pattern. I don't know what was the show's real objective. I'm not a woman to begin with in the first place. So, I mean, I think if anybody else had if any persons in society truly had the right to give commentary, I would think more likely so than so it would be the women to see if the things they are being, some of their challenges or issues or the things they want to hear being discussed. And as we said, that's not really our focus point today or focal point actually today. We're actually here to speak about the last episode of the show. Well, I would
Right.
say, yeah, the last episode of the show, and I'm not, thankfully, this show, that last episode, I watched the entirety of the show. And it was because I was asked to comment on the show, on the finale of the show, on another talk show. So that's why I took the time, I sat down and I looked at the entire show. And I would say, and I did see glimmers of it from some of the things I would have seen throughout the course of the season, where particularly its host, I think she's a host. I don't know if they're all hosts or if there's a lead host, Miss Sarah Jane Waddell. I think she was Miss World or Miss Trinidad at some point in time. Not Miss World, possibly our contestant for Miss World. I could be wrong.
Yes.
Um, I was able
I
to
think
see
she was
her in
Miss
that
World.
show. She
Yes,
was on the
ma'am.
panel. There was a Dr. Sante. There was another lady. I didn't quite catch her name. And there was a Dr.
Well,
Gabriel Hussein who is very well known to me. Right?
right. And then, of
And
course, I think was Dr. LeBlanc or something like that.
right, LeBlanc was right. I think that's Dr. Sante. LeBlanc is his name.
Maybe
Yes, I
yes.
imagine so. Yeah, I imagine so. So during the discourse of that show, I realized for some reason, I think it was the finale, and I would think that possibly hosts and the producers thought that, all right, we've met with women, I believe, on some levels of the society. I don't know how close to the ground they went down to, but on some levels of society, maybe we should speak to those women who are championed as being the lead advocates for women, or the women who champion themselves as being the voice for women, and the persons who supposed to be the experts when it comes to women and women issues. So that's why I think they may have put together that panel that they would have deemed to be esteemed. But a lot of the things I found it to be more so troubling, not coming from the host. I actually commend the host after seeing that episode, but coming from these experts, Ted, the
Yeah.
level of, do I call it acrimony? Because acrimony, but I don't know if it's acrimony because I don't know the persons if they have personal umbrages with men or personal distress from men's lives or men being in their lives or whatever. But the level, let me use acrimony that I would have seen from the panel, certain statements that were made, certain commentary that was given, and the battle between the host, because the host trying to bring neutrality, the host is trying to bring balance, the host is trying to bring to me a holistic approach of men and women in society. And from
That's right.
what I encountered in the show or saw on that show, Ted, she seemed to be having an upward battle. You had a chance to take a look at that last episode at all, Ted?
Yes, yes, yes. As a matter of fact, boy, hmm, to me, it was disturbing to me on so many different levels. And I think Miss Waddle definitely did try to bring some perspective, to bring some balance, and all kudos to her. And of course, she will be one of the people recognizing that when you're dealing with people who are unapologetically of the modern feminist age, that is
Wow.
just, it's almost impossible, right?
Right.
I at the level, and let me just put this in very, very early.
Mm.
I have two beautiful, brilliant daughters.
Mm.
From the perspective of they getting an equal share of the pie, as
Mm.
a man who is going to fight to ensure that my daughters, my sisters, the women in my vicinity can get an equal share of the pie. From that perspective, I'm a feminist. However,
Mm.
I am not going to be one of these feminists that are going to find that for me to rise, I have to tie the hand and the foot of every man that is above me and hate men and that kind of thing and try to become masculine and try to become you know as the program goes on, I will become
Superiority.
stronger in the thing. Yeah, yes, because listen, for the thousands of people that are listening to us right now, let me explain something to the ladies. I know it's drive time, which means that a whole lot of you ladies are in your cars right now listening. Take it from a man, take it from an alpha male, if you want to call it that. We are not intimidated, right, by you masculine women. We are annoyed. All right? We are not intimidated. And let me give you an example of how annoyed we are. If you had a man and every time you want to do something or something like that, this man is doubting you and this man is behaving effeminate and this man is behaving weak and this man is behaving gossipy and
Controversial.
permissive and
Mm.
controversial, you will find that man annoying as a woman, right?
So you're there
You
him.
wouldn't say that this man is competing against me or this man, or I'm intimidated by this man because he's behaving effeminate. No, you will find that man annoying. It is the
Mm.
very same way we find women who operate in masculinity annoying, right? So don't feel we afraid here. Believe you me, Rondell Fields,
Ah,
David
boy.
Mack, and Ted Jones, we're not afraid here,
Correct,
right?
correct, correct.
We
And
are
I like how you
annoyed.
start. I like how you started so, Ted, because the first thing they want to say is that as men hate feminism and men hate this and men. But the thing is this, what they describe feminism to be isn't what we've ever seen or experienced. So if
That's right.
feminism is what it is described to be, which I can still say I believe it is,
That's
what I
right.
believe they are toxic feminists. And
Exactly.
that we have a problem
Exactly.
with. Because people might say,
No.
Fields, oh, you getting vexed. And you're a big male advocate. You always fighting for males this. You always fighting for males that. But at the end of the day, I can't say that that I hate feminism because I'm a male advocate. But if my
right.
advocacy as a male advocate becomes toxic, where it has no balance, where I want to pull down women, where you see me jump in front of a show and I say, yeah, what? For boys to get better, keep girls out of this. Don't bring girls in this at all because boys won't be able to do good in school. Tell girls to go home. Don't come back to school again because we need boys to rise. Boys in crime, boys going and do criminal activity. So we need to give boys this alone and don't give girls access to certain things that will better or enrich their life. If I
Yes,
started
exactly.
to say those things, then something would be wrong. I am no longer a male advocate. I am a toxic, poisonous male advocate. So our issue is
That's
not
right.
with feminists. The sad thing is that most of the display and expression of feminism today has somehow become a toxic and poisonous one. So much, Ted and Dave, that women don't like to be called feminists. Women
Anymore.
have
That's right.
categorized feminists or feminism in a negative light. Not only men.
That's right.
When they say feminists, they don't speak as if it's a woman that's women perceive, those even women and other men now no longer can perceive it for what the definition of it is. You understand where I'm coming from?
Wow.
Where you say, Marlon? I'm
That's
glad to
right.
see you jump in.
Right pressure, but trying to log in or trying to log in. What miss?
So we're talking about feminism, we're talking about the show. You know, there's a show that went on Our View. We're not talking about the show per se, we're talking about the season finale where certain things were said. But before we jump into the show, because we have clips from the show that we want people to hear, so that based on what you hear and what we discuss, we want you all to call and comment as well. But Marlon, back to you. We were discussing feminism, and I was just saying, feminism, based on the definition of what feminism is supposed to be, I have no challenge with it. But the challenge I have now is that what is supposed to be, or what was once called feminism, has now taken a face or has now been injected with a dose of toxicity. Because it is not about building women. No. It is about pulling down men. It's about demonizing men. It's about separating women from men. It's about saying that men will always destroy women. It's nothing about bringing men and women to a place that is equitable, where we both can understand the value of us being interdependent and understanding the value of us being able to form a coalition to have a better society in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the world. Your take and experience on feminism. What you think about it? You like it? You don't like it? What is your experience?
Well, first to begin, I don't really agree with the feminism at all, because from the genesis we understand male and female are not the same. And
Right.
the feminists are trying to tell women that they can do everything that the men can do. Right? So we have a conflict there. And we even say where that conflict is causing problem in relationships. Right?
Right.
Because women want to do everything that they say a man could do, and they feel they can do it better. They're challenging the man. But at the end of the day, and they say they're breaking the glass ceiling, and we don't have no problem with them breaking the glass ceiling. But at the end of the day, you're still feminine, right? And you're right, as you rightfully said, all they do is bringing a war between men and women. It's going to be a war because they're fighting on the men, and them thing is, you can't fight on the men, as you recently said. Society was built on the backbone of men. Whether they like it or not, they can't run everything without men, right? And I always said, I watch some high building, when I stand up and talk and watch how high these men are top with no harness. You seen any woman going up on any building to do that? You understand what I say? So we're fighting a battle that, as they say, what are even fighting that for? We understand long time women weren't allowed to probably drive and go to some countries. All right, we know we can see that, but this big set of hullabaloo, I think we're watching some clip the other day too where they say that women don't need men and all kind of thing. It was like international or something. I watched that sometime recently with a whole big thing, right? And women don't need men, but at the end of the day, if we as men take a week off and say, you know what, we're not working for this week, all men take a relax. You know what going to happen? Chaos.
Pressure.
Chaos.
Because Marlon, because I know you use the harness example, and that's sometimes some of the highest jobs. Sometimes they get paid for being on the height. But we don't run out, we men don't run away from the lowest either, you know. The garbage man.
Correct.
I don't know if I ever see a female garbage man in my life. I don't know if I ever see that. We willing to pick up the mess too. So on every level, whether it's the highest and most dangerous, or is the lowest or most demeaning, because it's nothing for anybody to go and pick up garbage and train it back at a truck. If women wanted those kind of careers, they could do it in the morning. You jump on a truck, you pick up the garbage. Once, hopefully, you can run a little bit, you can run on a truck and throw it in the back. But it is something that a woman just may not want to do. But men does do it with no issue. So my general issue here with that show particularly started when I heard Dr. Gabriel Hussein make a statement that I believe, gentlemen, she must apologize for. If you guys don't know who Dr. Gabriel Hussein is, Dr. Gabriel Hussein is supposed to be a lead advocate when it comes to gender studies. She's held positions at the IGDS. She was on the committee for a while there. Then she became the head of IGDS. Then after that, I believe she was at the Equal Opportunity Commission. She is a person in a very strategic place that needs to be very unbiased. And because of her experience and because of her level of professionalism, I would have never, or at least her expected level of professionalism, I would have never expected her to utter the statements that she did on that show. I mean, I don't even want to say it right now until after. David, if you have clip one, run clip one for us, guys. I don't know if you guys would have heard it. For those listeners out there who didn't hear it, I would like you to play clip one for us. Let us hear on the Our View show what were the sentiments of Dr. Gabriel Hussein when it came to men and women. And then let's get right into the discussion after that.
Yes, you know, there's a phrase, right, that we always hear, that women are our own worst enemy. Yeah? What do you think about that?
It's a phrase I try not to use. I think we can ask, why don't women support each other more? But I think that women's worst enemy are the people who kill women, because that's the extreme. That's what an enemy does. An enemy harms you to the greatest extent. And really, women's worst enemy is men, because men are predominantly the ones who commit femicides. So it's a phrase I try not to use, because I find one minimizes the harm that women actually experience. And also it stereotypes women as naturally haters to each other, when in fact, women both may not support each other and do support each other. And so there are a lot of contradictions to explore.
Right. So you heard the question asked by Dr. LeBlanc about the statement that she's now given a gender, apparently. You've heard the statement of women are their worst enemy. Before we even jump on Dr. Gabriel Hussein's side, guys, as men, have you ever heard that statement before? Have you ever heard that expression? You as men, has it ever been told to you before? Because I don't know if it's just me.
Listen to me, brother. Let me explain to you. That statement is a very interesting statement. I'm going to tell you why. It is not, and that is the problem these people on this panel will have it. The statement, women are women's own worst enemy, is in fact a statement that has been always bandied about. Just as you will hear, if you're from Tobago, Tobagonians are Tobagonians' worst enemy. Just as if you are in a fraternity of men, men are men own fraternity, or a Caribbean man is a Caribbean man's worst enemy. In other words, there is an expression, it's an expression usually that comes out of an expectation that if you and I are the same fraternity, then there must be some. If you disappoint me in that fraternity, then obviously the statement becomes something more livid. All right. So that's actually where it comes from. So that is not a statement exclusive to women alone. And if any woman is so deceptive to think that the context of the statement does not have relevance, and you want to take that statement and blame somebody else instead of seeing where you all may in fact be undermining one another. When you are a married man and when there's a married man and you go after the married man, what you doing as a woman? Right? I mean, I want to sound judgmental, but the point I'm making is, right? When you are, let's not even go there. The fundamental basis of which we're under where women gossip. Where do women gossip about mostly? Right? Not other women, not women in their circle or their classroom or in their workplace. How many men that sit down at home, and when their wife reach home, complain about every woman in their workplace? Right? So the fact that it is, I mean, these are real things. And I'm saying that do not now take that, which is a real thing, which is what I am so disappointed the doctor did. Dr. Hussein did. And as usual, some women have this way, too many women have this way of not being accountable for their actions. So when they find themselves in that position, blame it on the man. So women don't undermine one another, but guess what? Let's blame them men, not the woman. Let's blame them men, them few men, in the scheme of things, that killing women.
Right. So you use that as a catalyst to jump there.
Exactly. Right?
And I work in the different company that I work, right? Anytime the boss lady or anytime there's a boss lady or a woman is the boss, you know who usually has the most problem with? The females.
The women.
She don't problem with the males. The males are always ready to work at how many hours. As the woman is the head of the company or she's a boss, it's problem with them. And then she mentioned the word femicide, right? And I don't put more. Good. Now she talking about.
We go deal with that part. We go deal with that part just now, Marlon. We go deal with the part of Dr. Hussein. I want us to deal, and I like the perspective you brought in of the woman boss versus the female employees. And I will add to what Ted, I like the part Ted brought in, where he spoke generally about, hey, in your crew, in your clip, sometimes when we're in disagreement, sometimes when we undermine each other, that is an expression used. It doesn't have any particular gender attached to it. But I want to use even a different perspective to that as well, Ted. Sometimes that can be said in something that is apparent, cautioning, a positive critique too sometimes, I have been told, boy, you are your worst enemy. You're doing X, Y, Z to yourself. I have said to other persons, irrespective of their gender, but based on their behavior, that what you are doing, you are actually cutting off your nose to spoil your face. So that is an expression that even at times you can use to positively caution somebody, and people have done that. We have all heard that. So I don't know. I don't know, Ted, as you were saying, if that was a strategy or it was a pre-plan to say, hey, we're going to start saying this phrase is a female focal phrase, and then we're going to flip it on the back and say, hey, but it's really these fellas and them is who should be an enemy. Because that phrase doesn't have any gender. Men, women, even children, the teacher sometimes we should tell her that.
Yes, you are your own worst enemy. You know what times I heard that?
That is the
But
reality of it.
all groups, most groups, right? Most groups have that. If, for example, you are in a even if you're in for example, a union, right? What you call it? Those unions that work, and there are some people. The unions try to move for a particular kind of compensation package, and there are some
Right.
people within the union that may not be as vociferous, or might be in fact willing to work for the package or whatever their situation is.
We can
Then
have your right.
even within the state of the union, there is the concept that, hey, well, you know, that I've said, even we members are our own worst enemy, right?
Correct.
The bottom line is that every time a statement like that is made, Rondell, Marlon,
Mhm.
Dave, every single time a statement like that is made, the best opportunity for anybody who understands the value of accountability is to check yourself.
Correct.
We
And
can
let me pick up in it right there because I like how you talk about that accountability. And I think clip two, Dave, will show actually Sarah Jane Waddell saying and sharing a lot of the sentiments that we have. Taking accountability as women, as Marlon suggested, inferring boy, sometimes it's really true that women really sometimes fight against each other. And this is what they had to say when she was making those comments. Play clip two for us there, please, Dave.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off if you're finishing, but I would just say I look at we're at the season finale, so I'm happy to have you all here today, and I will say that just it's we talk about these things as stereotypes, but the reality is I have seen clips and videos from this show as the season has wore on, where it has just been like terrible comments. And 90% of them are women, and 90% of them are women our age, or within 5 years of our age, because it's Facebook, so you can see the names of
But
profiles.
suppose
and
it's
the
a man
pictures.
posing as a woman.
I think even if they did, they would be the exception. But the reality is that the vast majority of the comments are coming from women, and they are not necessarily just critique or criticism. A lot of them are just mean-spirited. And I think that that's where the phrase women are the worst enemy comes from. I think it's an expression to describe how we self-sabotage ourselves because of insecurities and whatever reason, wherever it's rooted in, that could be different. But I don't think it's reserved for women. I have told people, you are your own worst enemy. I've said, oh gosh, I am my own worst enemy. You know, and I don't mean that
say it about
necessarily.
men.
I don't know why we wouldn't. I told my husband that last week. You know, I said, you always think you're on time, but you're late. You are your own worst enemy.
No, but we
have
don't
anything
say
to
that
do with,
men are their own worst enemy. That's just not a phrase we use about men, even though men are killing each other all over the world.
Maybe so,
and in
but
fact are their own worst enemies.
You listen to that, fellas? You listen to that?
Yes.
So we have the
Painfully.
host there who has no doctorate in gender studies or any other things, who is actually putting forward the most sensible and compelling argument that, hey, this statement is a statement that has been bantered about. And even in its banter, it really has some truth to it to say that sometimes we women are our women, other women sometimes worst enemies. Based on the thing, she used the example of the show, she used the example of the comments. You heard what Dr. LeBlanc said? She said,
Yes.
is it how you know it's a woman? It could be a man. And I am so flabbergasted by that. That her first
This is
position is that is men in large numbers creating fake profiles just to make women appear as though they are fighting each other and hate each other, that it is the men doing it.
That
Coming to
is
the
to
end
show
of
you how far removed they are from reality, how far removed they are. And listen to me, guys, and Trinidad and Tobago listening to me. Listen to me. And this is these are not mere ladies. These are not ladies of straw. These are not ladies that are unlearned, you know. These are ladies that received their doctorate from a system that has approved what they have presented. So this should tell you right? That these are ladies that are so far removed, right, from their own culpability in the entire system of how the mindset of how we think as society, that they would look at 100 plus, maybe 300 negative responses and
Mm.
believe that men are going to have the time to sit down and create a fake profile on Facebook to respond to one program.
And here Dr. Gabriel's bit. Dr. Gabriel's bit is saying that this isn't said to men. We just spoke about that. We've heard that. We've said that it's all about in your grouping that it's being utilized.
Exactly.
Sarah Jane Waddell said she told her husband that last week. So it just goes to show for some reason the divisive nature or the divisive art at work. And I like the point that you make, and the reason why I call it a divisive art, I don't even want to call it a realm of study, because as you said, they have received doctorates from at the highest level of academia. So
right.
was this the academic training they received?
Well,
Are
I
these
want to
studies
believe.
so skewed? This is my concern, Ted.
No,
Because if
and
they
let
have
me tell
achieved
you,
doctorates, and this is what coming out of their mouth, is it that this is what's being taught at tertiary levels?
let me tell you this. Until we have, because we men are empirically minded, we are logically minded. Until two things happen to speak to the second to the difference, we would
Right.
have to accept that the education system is doing that. One is this, that if your mindset at the level of a doctorate allows you to think that way, then that means that there has to be some kind of enabling system within the education system that women and men are receiving, because they have plenty of simps out there too, that
Correct.
receiving, right, that causing them to be and to have that mindset enforceable. That is one. The other one, however, is even more ominous. It is the fact that our university will turn out, our University of the West Indies alone will turn out over 1,500 students every single year in the social sciences area, right? And not
Right.
one of these people, not this outflux or outpouring of people educated in the system, can bring changes to one, the poor, the relatively poor performance of our boys in the education system, right? Not bringing
Correct.
anything. So it obviously means that whatsoever is making our people consider themselves learned, obviously is not resulting in a better society, and that is
But
frightening.
but the thing is, when you think of it like that, Ted, how can it? Because
Yeah.
whether the field of study, where whether it's the thesis or whatever they call it that they're studying, right? Where
Yes.
is
That
it
they
being
presenting for the
based
doctorate.
from? Where is it derived from? Is it from research that's conducted on the street? Is it the research conducted in our society? If it is at such a loggerhead with what is on the ground, you understand where I'm coming from? It could never fix the ground
Yes.
because their perspective at that level is so opposite to what is taking place on the ground. You've received your doctorate in that level of academia, but that level of academia is definitely not needed to fix what is on the ground.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I'm not even to
Exactly.
fix what is on the ground. Where did it come from? That's what I'm asking. Normally, I would think you would build these studies, you would build these things that you go to teach in these at the tertiary level, particularly if we're talking about social sciences and these things, based on things that you've experienced, not only on the international space, but even in your local diaspora.
Bro, well said. Well said. But you see, and there are certain speakers that speak, ad infinitum, right, about the the agendas of many many institutions of tertiary level education, right? Which speaks again to that pandering, right? To the feminine voice or to the feminist voice, because there is a difference between being feminine
And
and
feminists.
being a feminist, right? And as a
Correct.
matter of fact, I think the most devastating, or one of the most devastating threats to our to feminism, as it were, to femininity, right, is the modern feminist agenda, and that is the reason why they have getting the pushback they are getting from real women who are
Correct.
in the trenches, women who know how to support their children, who know how to support their husband, because there
Correct.
are women out there like that.
Oh,
There
mass
are
majority.
great mothers out there. There are great women out there who are balancing professional and family,
Correct.
right? So let's not even put all of them on that brush, but there is a group of women that are toxic to society. It is almost like if you have a body and you have cells working together, and then they have some cells that become free radicals, and these free radicals become cancer. And that is exactly how cancer is formed in the body, by some of the cells in the body, right? Oxidizing wrongly, becoming free radicals, and as a result of that forming cancer. This is exactly
Wow.
what's happening, and it's happening on the men's side too, you know. But we're
Of
dealing
course.
with these particular ladies here because of how overtly and where they are positioned. Now,
And
I have a question. Sorry
tell me.
to cut you,
No,
but
go ahead right ahead.
I'll go in this way. So these ladies are now placed in positions of authority. And your son, thank God I had daughters, so they could get through with them there. But your sons, right, have an issue. How can these ladies, based on what they said,
Correct.
how can they adjudicate properly, right, so that everybody finds an equal play?
And the answer is they cannot do so. And the thing is, it may not even be that they cannot also. They are uninterested to. They are unconcerned to do so. So to them, it's no failure if they don't, because they are unconcerned to do so. They have told themselves that in the light of achieving what they consider equality, they need to leave boys who are soon to become men out. They believe they are actually, that's part of their training, to leave them out. That is why boys have been left out of things. I will continue to harp on that ICT position, because I know we are in a world that is now artificially intelligent, and we are in a world that digitization is a bound to must sure to happen. And if you could have all the knowledge when it comes to reading, writing, and arithmetic, if you are not literate in ITC and you don't know how to navigate things online, you don't know how to use social media hubs, you don't know how to use certain platforms, you don't know how to do online banking, you don't know how to register a business online, all these things are online negotiations now. So if we purposely leave boys out of this, the next men to come, we set them at a disadvantage.
Exactly.
So to them, apparently the plan is, let us advance girls unfairly, so that they obviously will be the main choice of tomorrow, which is not fair, because the last time something like that happened was in Jim Crow days. When you would allow, when a certain type of people, regardless of their gender, weren't allowed to go in the particular bathroom, don't sit along in the front of the bus, don't do certain things, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. So that there would be that demarcation of who is at the top and who's to the bottom. I want us to go back. Go ahead.
No,
Before we go back, go ahead and make a statement.
Oh, yes. And I also want to, even as the perspective of somebody who has been involved in church for so much of my life. And I haven't been in church all my life, of course. I've been on both sides of the fence very deeply, actually.
Right.
But one of the things that really, really bothers me too is that if we sit back, we must see the agenda. We must see that, listen, you are weakening society if you weaken your boys. If you're not going to give your boys the best opportunity at education, the best opportunity at their form of education, so that our boys can become things. One, I don't know how many criminals there are in Tobago, but one thing I know for sure is that the vast majority of people in Tobago are good, upstanding people working hard. But you know what?
Right.
Just the one or two miscreants are
True.
enough to sully an entire nation. So as a result
Correct.
of that, it is very important. It is very, very important that we work assiduously on ensuring that every young man has an opportunity. I'll leave it there for now. I have
Ted,
plenty
but
more to say.
how do we work on that, Ted? For us to be able to truly strategize and make programs that will work and function well in our society, we must do the relevant research on the party. That is why
Yes.
you would see men on the ground who understand the ground continuously say, yes, it have a set of programs from the ministry, but 3/4 of the boys that need to access them cannot. You want to know why? There was no research done for them to know that the catchment age needs to be lower than 16 years old. So 3/4
right.
of the programs, 16 years and over, 16 years and over, 16 years and over. When by 16, he's a gunman. By 16, he's a bandit. By 16, he's a robber. By 16, the police killing him like the young boy last week. This week, I mean.
Yes. And
16
actually
years old.
by 16, they would have failed, they would have so-called air quotes failed so much in the school system that they themselves also have a very low self-value.
They drop out of school long time.
Exactly.
They drop
So
out
as a
of school
result of
long
that,
time. But my point here, Ted, is that if you do not do the research, and the reason I'm going to the research, it is because those women hold positions where research is important. Dr. Hussein was the head of the IGDS. I remember when we started Single Fathers Association, Dexter Mahadio, our past member who committed suicide later, he took me there. That is the first day I met Gabriel Hussein and her counterparts, a table full of women. When Dexter, and myself were the only men there. And they, when I requested, I said, you know, I think I want to start the Single Fathers Association thing. And I think there's a bias in the court when it comes to the issuance of custody. They told me explicitly, we only have funding right now to do research on women and children. One was brazen-faced enough to ask me if I want to pay for it, for them to do it.
Gentlemen, let me interject here. I have a call on the line.
Great.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Mr. Fields, Mr. Jones, the panel.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Fields, I ain't going to call my name, but I listened to you. I listened to your post earlier on today.
Nice.
I just touch on some points, right? Because I know it's time for me to step in and contribute my voice and activate,
Yes, man.
These loose languages that women like to use and without understanding the meaning, it is the norm now. They call people, the men especially, misogynistic and narcissistic.
Yeah.
As you have an opinion that differs to theirs, it doesn't support theirs. They label you. We have a label culture now and a cancel culture.
Correct.
These are things that we need to address. What bothers me with this situation, with this particular woman, is exactly what you said. But I only understood that because I don't listen to their program. To me, I hear enough reviews that is nonsense. But when I heard that a woman who holds these key positions in society,
correct,
frightens me in this way. What about the other people with the struggle that you have been having and the others in the Single Fathers Association, people in the family court, people like medical doctors, police officers, welfare officers?
True.
Other people might even be men who hold these obscured views, these biased views against men and men's rights and simple basic entitlement. What about these people?
Wow. True.
We,
You make my pause raise.
we now start to skim the surface as to how deep. You know what strike me with what you're saying here now?
Hmm.
You have had enough time pass to show that this woman was biased even then when you didn't have a following that you have now. That has been sabotaging the rights of human beings that just happen to be male. Because they happen to be male. How many people we have in leadership positions that decide our fate and the things that we have a basic right to, even when they look at you, because there are police officers who look at you and because you're a black man, let me put it that way, they stigmatize you. This is not a simple issue as this woman. It just starts with this woman and we have mass follow up.
True.
You mass fall off here now because she make a statement and you take it up, man, brother, from my heart. Thank you for taking up this matter and this issue because you always, most people don't listen, but I on Facebook, I just try to hit where it hurts the most with men and women. When men doing their foolishness, I call them out. When Muslims, because I'm a Muslim, I call them out. It's when politicians, I call them out. Police. So I'm not biased against any one sector of society. I like to call out, and I try to do different with my family. But brother, I support you all.
Appreciate that.
I'm going to continue to share it wherever I could do. I will do.
Appreciate that.
Stop. And women, I ask, when you listen to this audio, please stop with the views that y'all can't do no wrong and it's always men and you always have to be blaming men. We both share responsibilities. And when you all make bad decisions, you could sometimes live long enough to have to deal with it on the back end with your own sons, just as you said, Mr. Fields. Gentlemen, you have a good evening.
So true, so true. Mark, if you just want to share the numbers, let's put the numbers out, let the callers call in, let them know they could call at any time. We want to get your views. I totally appreciate that caller before you go, Mark. I'm going to let you know why, because what you said raised my pause. If I had become so downtrodden by what they told me in that meeting that day, Edward, Ted, imagine if I had said, my mean starting no single fathers now. Let me go and fight up myself here. Let me, I felt demotivated. I remember when I walked on that meeting with Dexter, I was mad at him. I said, what we come here for? You understand? To feel you already feel rejected from our court system, rejected from your family, who we expect to be involved with you. Not my family directly, but my son's mother and those things at that point. You understand? To come and meet rejection again. You know how hard that was if I didn't have this fighting spirit to continue and some good soldiers at my side. What could have happened? Look at the years gone by. We weren't able to get that statistic until we partnered with the Emancipation Support Committee, who got that, who got the project for us through the European Union, and we got the statistic. And what we suggested was true. 66% of the times, on no other basis, when men and women apply for custody, father having the same competence, father having the same capability as a woman, the mother is granted. Can you imagine if they did that study back then, was in 2012 that I suggested? At that point, we'd have realized that shared parenting, care and control was only issued 2% of the times by the court. And we, from that point, may have had 8 or 10 years to build on so that we could have encouraged the court to move towards shared care and control so that we'd have had a more coalition in family life for the 8 years before. So when you have persons in those positions, as he said, it stops progress. And we have to call them out. When they're in those positions, they have to resign. I know she was last in the Equal Opportunity Committee. Those are places that you cannot hold bias. You have to be unbiased, or else what will happen to men who need assistance from the Equal Opportunity Committee?
Well, as I tell you already, Papa, I have daughters. I good. It's you. But here,
let Mark give the numbers then. Let Mark give all the numbers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the numbers that you can connect with us are 222-8255, 222-8255, or toll free 866-525-1099, 525-1099. We're also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can send in your comments. There are some comments here that
Great.
I don't know if I should read them.
Read
Go
them,
ahead.
man.
What's the
Read
one
them.
I've seen in them?
Well, it's from an Antoinette Lewis. All right.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can take it from the top. The amount of deaths in the world of women and
Mm.
what the circumstances were tells you exactly how many women are killed by men. And then she goes on. What exactly did say that was wrong? Are
Right.
women not mainly killed by men? What does leave them out, or who does leave them out? That is madness. She continues, black people. She continues, where black women were the backbone of the struggle and men voices to be placed in the front. It was why sitting at the counters were black men and black women. And she goes on. Oh, so addressing women as feminists and gaslighters is somehow different. And that's not all. And that is a lie. All our problems is not the fault of men, but really is we live a male dominant in a male dominant place. No, just because we have a female president with no teeth and a broken down woman as opposition women running this place. Oh, you're serious?
A little confused. But let me deal with the point which you talk about with some statistic, because we don't deal with emotion here. And I'm going to get some stronger statistics to start to deal with this stupidness that they're talking about. Right? So everybody knows that for the last years, I have been following the murder rate. Not because of anything to deal with femicide and versus man versus woman, but particularly to have as a talking point when I speak to young men, when I speak and show them how vulnerable they are when they sell their lives short. For the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, Miss Antoinette, listen, take a book and write and have understanding. Our murder rate of men have been 90.7%. In 2022, we had 605 murders, 550 of those were men. In 2023, we had 575 murders, 521 of those were men, 90.7%. If my mathematics does not fail me, it means we have 9.3% of that number that are women that are murdered. Very small percentage, not saying women's life are not important. 9.3%. But that 9.3% isn't only men who have committed femicide. You must subtract from that 9.3% the percentage of women that have killed women also. A percentage that is now growing. From that 9.3%, you still also must extract also the women that were murdered because of gang affiliation and were not murdered because of intimate partner violence. The figure that I received, and I'm going to, I don't even want to call that until I substantiate it. I've already written kappa to get the number annually of men that have murdered women and women that have been murdered, and I will give you. So listen to the percentage that you are saying is an astronomical number that suits or gives the right to a statistician, right? Who is Dr. Gabriel Hussein, to say that men are women's enemy. You hear the minuscule number, not saying that the lives of those women matter any less. I'm not saying the lives of the women who were murdered by women matter any less also. Not saying the lives of the men who were 90.7% doesn't matter also, because all the lives matter. But showing you the very small percentage that we have used or she has used as a talking point to say that all men are the enemy of women. She didn't say men that harm women, you know. She said men. She generalized. And as a woman who who is at a position or held a position at the IGDS where she was head, where she has statistics at her fingertips. It's not Rondell Fields or some other person just saying that who didn't do research. Because of who she is, people will believe what she says because they will believe because of her portfolio, the one that she held, that she has the statistic to back it up. And I am telling you, Antoinette, that Dr. Gabriel Hussein does not have statistics to show that there are more women that are killed by men than there are women that are protected by men.
We have another
Could never
call.
happen.
We have another caller line. Good afternoon, caller. Yeah, you have to speak up some more.
Good afternoon, It's Marlon. Listen here, boy.
You're listening, Marlon.
But I will now come in to give you some statistics for that and what you touched on the last 2 to 3 years.
Bring it on.
2002 to 2020 with murders here, right? With 2008 being the highest with 550 murders, and as you mentioned, most of these murders were men. And nobody makes a hullabaloo about that when men are murdered. Everybody says, oh, God, all right, it's a man, look for that, or it's a gang or whatever. But with 2 or 3 women murdered for the year, out of 550, you want to shut down the whole country. So how could you say that men and women is women? Why about you say woman is men and woman is whatever?
Men and women's greatest enemy.
Right. So that is a statement that makes no sense. No sense. When we clearly see from 2000 to 2024, where the murder, if you multiply or add up these other men here, you know how much men died in the last 10 to 15 years?
And let me tell you what their defense is, or what their counteract to that statement is, man, and as you alluded to, is that men kill them. But as I said this morning, many a murder or many a robbery that leads to the murder of a man oftentimes is allied by women, you know. Sometimes they get the gun to the gunman. A man give the gun to the woman, knowing that she could walk past certain places and get the gun to the gunman without being searched. Many times it's a phone call that came from a woman. Hey, boy, I commented in Karima movie tongue XYZ. And you hear they call it put up. And the young man comes out on the corner waiting for the young lady. And then the men who come to pull the trigger most times are men. And even in this generation now, and this is to show that they don't know how the ground is, there are women who are unafraid to bust their gun, as they call it now. So,
as a matter of fact,
in every way right now, when you see the murder or death, sometimes with the robbery, when people get robbed, it's a girl in the bank tell the man, here what's going on. This man now leave with $100,000, or they take him. They come and they shoot the man in the head and take the $100,000. And they're not involved in the murder, even though they didn't pull the triggers as well. Yes or no? So the reality is that they care less that it is a man dying because they attribute the murder because they believe the man is the man who pulled the trigger. But some of these crimes, when you look at the investigations, when the investigators and the investigative story, it involved a web of people, of both men and women, a network of them.
It even was so bad, Rondell, that I just tell young fellas now, or young men, or men in general, don't even, you haven't vet this young lady or woman before you even bring them in your place and know what you're doing, because it's reaching a point now where the men are putting up, I just say the women putting up. And I have spoken to the past, I think the past assistant commissioner before this last week, this new regime here, which was a female. She told me personally, a lot of these crimes are because of females.
Right.
You understand? So I'm not trying to, but I can't log in, so I watch it.
Yeah. So as I say, go ahead, Ted. I know you had your point. Make your point.
Right. And yes, so actually I think Marlon spoke to that, which is that there's a network that involves women. And then you have to also remember too that a vast majority of women are now part of gangs. Now, let's face it, if you are part of a gang and they're shooting at a gang,
right,
Trinidad and Tobago and women Do you think these bandits, these miscreants, need to shoot around the woman? You know, there's a movie like that where you could shoot the bullet around
Matrix.
somebody.
Yeah.
The Matrix.
Yeah.
No, if you are part of that system, then the possibility of you right here in Bethel, there are women that getting shoot,
Right.
right?
Right, then,
And I
Trinidad.
could tell you, right? So, and the thing is that you think that these men who already do not have a sense of value of life, have a sense of value of justice, socially bankrupt in terms of their
Right.
perception on life, should listen to women and say, well, here's what, when we go into and shoot, let me do, and on what premise should they not shoot every member of our gang? On what premise? That because you are a woman? So if you are a woman and you are part of a gang, why should they not shoot you? Is it because somehow you now take the benefit of being a woman, somehow
Not
less
with them.
more precious? I don't understand the argument.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Now,
And-
again,
Yeah.
we come strongly against domestic violence of every type.
correct.
And this is where men are hitting women and women are hitting men. And
Right.
this and the contrary, women are hitting men are actually happening in greater numbers. It's just that women are weaker.
Right.
Right? So the thing is, it is not to even say that men are holding much more restraint in many cases, and I'm not saying that enough should not hold restraint. More men need to hold restraint. As a matter of fact, all men need to hold restraint, no matter how bad women behave. Right?
Right.
Because
But also the
ultimately,
same women shouldn't be bad also.
well, yeah, I would want to recommend that, but you see, women don't have an accountability bone, so they don't have. So what we have to do now
Some
is that we
women,
just
some
have to
women, say
speak to
some,
men.
don't say all.
Yeah, some women don't have an
we have-
accountability
Yeah,
bone,
we have
like
another
the
caller
ones
now.
that
We
infuriated
have an
us from
ex-caller
this
there,
program.
Ted.
Yes.
Go
Good
ahead.
afternoon, caller.
Yes, calling back again.
Yes.
Right.
So y'all are correct, but I'm looking at an issue that I know from 20 years ago. Women liming in bars and casinos and setting up men. I hear women boast on that. And then they go home with these men. That is not criminal activities and rob the man. Get the man drunk, go in a hotel with the man, he win 60,000 in a whatever roulette or whatever is the machine. Rob the woman boast on that. That is one
Correct.
in. What about the young woman who pulled the steering and killed the man who was trying to drop her home? He was fed up of the relationship. And she killed him on the highway. I hear Mr. Fields talk about that too.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Young
Correct.
women
Correct.
away from these shooters. You know, these shooters, most of them will stop shooting. You know, it's because of the influence, the back influence that is giving these fellas backbone. Watch what has happened when the man they would die in a shootout. You know, most time the woman is the enemy and enable and so like it's a trophy now.
Totally.
Accountability for that, brother. You're correct. Women
Correct.
are more violent. You look at international standards. Forget the studies we don't like to do here. Go to the ones who just really do studies. And you, what you say you don't know, tell you don't know the value what you just say with women who are more violent. Women are more violent in relationships. You seeing because of social media, camera phones, women driving over men, killing men, women putting men up, women literally chopping and shooting men.
Correct. Correct.
In relationships, when the man react and respond, you only see the response of it.
And caller, let me tell you this. And for every time, and that is also the argument that women have, and for every time, or for most times when women do these things, it's what the man do.
But
So
at the end,
obviously, it's something that would have driven.
Not even dealing with the violence. It's a woman who put a video out with women's hygiene. She's telling you she does the whatever it is they call it, with the waxing and whatever. And she just explaining to you what her experience is with women. She never say men come in here, you know. I deal with hundreds of women. And this is what I have observed. And in the comments, you know what you hear the women saying? Yeah, but men stink too. The woman is literally telling you, women, take care of yourselves. The men don't want to tell you because if they tell you, they're afraid they won't get, you will withhold, will treat them bad. The woman, it's a woman, and that is what I like about the way the thing going now. You are seeing more and more women actually raising their voices because they're not, they just like to
push this front because of the accountability, the lack of accountability. So you
Right.
see, coming out now and telling you, fix yourself. But you will still see the majority of women in the comment section trying to falsely support women and find a way to blame the men. How could you blame a man for that? A woman telling you, lady, fix yourself. And then you turn and say, yeah, but men is this thing too. That has nothing to do with that. We're dealing with a woman telling a woman, you need to step up, take care of your body. I don't know why you have this lack of accountability, but again, gentlemen, Kevin Battersby are listening.
Yes, man. And I mean,
Yes, sir.
and what he's saying is the truth. For some reason, some women don't take advice well, whether it's coming from a woman, whether it's coming from a man. It's become shaming more than anything else now. You say anything, it's shaming. You look at Prime Minister said the other day, and this is what irks me. This is, and I will deal with that after. But the Prime Minister said, women, choose your men wisely. That is something we parents teach us from small. Choose your friends wisely. If you could choose your friend wisely, somebody who's going to be your soulmate or your life mate, you don't want to choose them wisely too. They say he was victim shaming the woman who get killed by men. He didn't speak to the woman who had already died and lost their life, unfortunately. He was speaking to the women that were alive. If you're in a
Well, the
relationship
Holy
with
Day could have
somebody
told
who
him.
beating you, kicking you down, doing you something, choose wisely. And I say to men every day now, if the woman don't want that advice, we want it. I tell men, choose wisely. Don't be
You
involved
know,
with somebody who don't have your best interest, somebody you can't trust, somebody who just with you because they want your money, somebody who not supportive, wouldn't help you. If you fall down, wouldn't be there with you anymore. Men, choose wisely. I don't see anything
Rondell,
wrong or shameful if they had said so. And that is
you
the part
know,
of it. And let me add
you know,
again, Ted, before you come in with the accountability thing. It is sometimes we are hesitant to hold people accountable, and sometimes we've been so with some of our women folk. Look at what Dr. Gabriel said. Look at the statement that she made that men are women's greatest enemies. I have seen the very same Dr. Gabriel Hussein and also other women who are groups and parts like Womantra and these things make men lose their job, make mayor get fired, make Dr. Rowley and other persons, when you say something publicly, they held the social power to make you, if you didn't have to recant and apologize,
Hold on.
these are the same people who make you lose your job. So why, when they say something that is unethical, unfactual, biased, that is a blanket statement, stereotypical, that is divisive, and that is dangerous, why aren't they now not held accountable? So they understand, some women understand that they are not going to be held accountable for the things that they do wrong. Nobody going to call them out because they're going to look like a small man, or you're going to look like a hate woman, or you're going to look like a misogynist. You're afraid somebody call you a misogynist because you have decided to call a spade a spade.
I have
We
a
have,
female caller on the line.
right.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I know my view will be one of the unpopular ones, but here goes, right? I honestly haven't looked at the specific episode in its entirety because, I mean, at this point, I will be honest and say I am currently nauseated by the continuous senseless banter surrounding this man and woman war or this apparent gender war that is going on. I am by no way any expert or any academic regarding any gender-related studies, but I believe myself to be a believer of God's word and his creation and the purpose for which he created. And until we find our way back to this foundation, it is in my honest opinion that of what the Creator made his creation for and their design purpose and rules, we will continue to see foolishness as wisdom. I honestly hope that, we don't just see this war between men and women, but understand that it's more about the kingdom. And until we give up this authority that we so boldly took from God to know what is best for us and to think that we know better than he does, we will continue going down this hill. In fact, that I am despondent that we can ever come out of. I could never understand what possesses us to think that it is better to live at loggerheads than to live in love in unison. What could be the possible benefit of this? What benefit does it bring to fight against each other as opposed to fighting for each other? I love the man that I have. I love the men in my life. And, there is no way that I could see myself bringing him down. What reflection of that is not me? You understand? So,
Well
men, I
said, caller.
continue to applaud you on the fight that you're fighting, and don't give up. It will be worth it at the end.
I like on the picture of the caller, I wanted to play clip 5 that I sent for you. Play clip 5 for me because it has to do with a lot of what she said. And the fact of it is feminine women in our society need to differentiate themselves from feminism. Play clip 5 because as she spoke about God, from what I saw on that show that day, to me at least, the
Oh boy, we lost him.
seem
So let me play
to
clip.
not acknowledge women who believe and serve a God. So let's play their words. Clip 5.
Teach
Yeah, but
you
Emma?
this is about equality. And you know what we have to do? The conversation is to change their mindset, to understand that it's not about superiority. And it's not about me trampling you. It's about you. And and yes, you're feeling that way, but you don't have to feel like, you know why they're feeling that way? Because society still has not fully changed the mindset of what gender equality is.
They're feeling that way because they're suffering. Because they're falling behind on every metric. That's why they're feeling that way.
They're falling behind. They're not. We're working
completely outpacing them in education.
But
they're not falling behind on every metric at all.
Man,
when it comes to land ownership, when it comes to political power, when it comes to corporate leadership,
but
when it comes to
that's different. I'm talking
when it comes to religious leadership.
I'm talking about the trends. Men are trending downward in their lives for their successes. They're feeling invalidated.
Can I ask you something?
On their rules.
But these are
we are taking on their roles as breadwinners. They cannot take on our roles as the keepers of the home.
But
so they are feeling invalidated.
But that's not because of God.
Yes,
that's not because of women.
Yes, that is what man was built to do. Man was built to do those things. Woman was built to nurture. Our biology reflects that, and we are reflected to be interdependent.
That's not actually
complementary.
True either.
But if we are pushing too much into each other's spheres, that's when chaos starts to erupt.
So this is why I played this clip because it actually was very similar to what the last caller said.
That's right.
Here is Sarah Jane Waddell. This is and we must say kudos to her and to women like Sarah Jane Waddell. And this is why I'm saying, for women who are feminine, women who believe in a God, you have the right to distance yourself if those women who are feminists, toxic feminists, in my view, you heard what Dr. LeBlanc told her? Who gave them these roles? God? Some women hold fast to that because they believe the role was given to them by God. They believe their body was created as a vessel of nurturing. They believe by the wisdom of God, He decided that I will make you with a mammary gland. I will make you with everything inside your reproductive organ for you to be able to hold, for you to be able to expand, for the child to grow, for you to be able to give the child nutrition from your very own body. That is an awesome gift. That is a miraculous gift for the human body to be able to perform. That is something that is sacred to many a woman. So for them to belittle even Sarah on the show, when she was trying to say, hey, I have no issue with the roles that men have to play. Well, she was advocating that we are seeing a downward trend in our men. We are seeing men going down. They are talking about men holding the power when it comes to land ownership, when it comes to jobs. Those things are not true. There are more women, and part of the show she said so. She said, when I'm going up in my office in the corporate world, there are more women going to be interviewed. There are more women in my job than there are men. More women holding leadership positions. How many men that are in the teaching system and there are female principals? How many men work in ministries with female permanent secretaries? How many companies are there now that are led by women and that are CEOs? We had a
Rondell,
woman that led our country that men voted for, that men supported. And the truth of the matter is, men have been supporting women, and we have to stand together, the feminine women, together with men, and oppose any divisive rhetoric that we are seeing coming out of the woodworks. Sorry,
yeah,
Ted.
Rondell, one of the things I also wanted to throw in, is there a call? Okay. One of the things that I wanted to also throw in, again, and Rondell, you see how many times I come back to our school system. Right? You see how many times I come back to our school system. It is because when we look at what is happening at the level of our primary, early secondary schools, in terms of our young men and how they are performing, and the systems that are not necessarily at least researched. Maybe nothing is wrong with the school system, but one thing I can tell you is that nobody is prepared to look at it because of the mindset of toxic feminism, right?
Wow, true.
No, it is not worthy. Let me give you and I keep saying this, Ron, and I'm sure you heard me say this. Mackie, you may have not heard me say this before. If you went into Port of Spain now and you saw the cobbles and they that up in the air over Port of Spain, if you saw them on the ground dead, they will send in a team of researchers to find out what happened. Right? Any system that is failing, there must be as a duty, a responsibility of our educated elite, right, to research it. You know why? Because we expect that they would have the research capability, they would also have the information, and they would have the know-how to find the answers. So when our young men are functioning at 60 to 40%, right, 60% girls to 40% boys in our public school system, which is a great, which is a very large disparity. Right? And you do not have a serious launch into why speaks about something that is almost clandestine. And to actually side with the lady that called, because I suspect she's coming from a spiritual perspective, almost demonic. Right? This is crazy. Could you imagine if we had a school system in 2024 where boys were doing 60% and girls were doing 40%? What an uproar that would have been. And as I said, I don't mind. I have girls.
But you understand, I'm sure, that with a generation of boys that are lost, not even the space for girls will be saved.
I was going to say that, and that is exactly what's happening in our society now. Because what we are failing to do is to sit down, get off our pride, get off our pride in many ways and one, and start understanding that this world needs masculinity just as much, or even maybe more, than we need femininity. And I don't even want to do the comparison, but the fact that you now want to oppress, and then listen to me, anytime men and women compete, you all saw it in the sports, in the Olympics. Anytime men and women compete on the same grounds, men will win 100 times.
And the thing is, I don't know where the spirit of competition has come from. I haven't ever seen a man vying to compete against a woman purposely.
Well,
beside the ones who call themselves,
kind of doing that these days.
Besides the ones who, to me, not mentally stable. I think they have a mental illness. They could vex if they want. I think they have a mental illness, right? But mentally sane men, we understand. Men still, even though, look at the thing we're saying that we hate women. Men protect women at every level. And if we use the example as a garbage man, that protection too, you know. But we don't want women doing that. More men come in to do that work. A woman on the highway, anywhere, shut down, tire burst, A man will stop to help her, Ted, before he stopped to help you and I. Because it's
Yeah,
a
well, we
woman.
gotta change our own tire.
We had to change retire, and we understand that, and we don't have no issue with that. If war hit Trinidad today, the same men they saying is women's greatest enemy is who will know have to pick up arms and go and fight. Look at Ukraine and Russia, where 18-year-old boys had been legislated to fight. 18-year-old boys and women and children were allowed to leave to go to safety. If there's tragedy, if there's storm, if there's terrorism, let us clear the building first of women and children. We men don't jump up and ball. We want equal rights. We want equal rights. Let the women stay and let the women come and fight with us. There. Even in the services. This is why I always say, they say she's talking about equality, the godly doctor. It's not about equality. Equality isn't always fair, you know. Equity is what brings fairness.
That's right.
Equality says, in this example I use, that every Trinidadian, we have public assistance grants that Trinidadians receive. If we being equal, it means everybody should be able to go and get one. But equity steps in to provide fairness and to prevent those who are financially capable from taking money from a limited source of income that should go to the needy. So equity brings fairness. Equity brings justice. Equality doesn't always do that.
Well,
So in this instance, so another example, I don't want to cut you again. We understand that if war is at hand, that men, because of how we are built most times, may be the reasoning there are more men there than women. That is what equity says. Don't send 100 women with the gun and 2 men. That wouldn't be fair. That is equality. That wouldn't be fair.
That's right. Right.
So
as a result of
equality, go ahead.
You know, so what I'm saying is that basically what they look at is this concept of outcome. They want equality of outcome. It's not necessarily, as you rightfully say, equity. And then, of course, the problem is that these so-called toxic feminists, they also define the outcome. So in the sense that, as you rightfully say, they don't really want equity or equality in terms of bricklayers and in terms of jobs of men that are not attractive.
Like the garbage man.
They really want equality in the attractive, authoritative position. That is what they want, right? So they look at leadership. So I start my company. You know how much women have companies? I start my company. I have masculine traits. I'm aggressive. I take less. I'm more assertive. I do the things that are naturally masculine in terms of getting in the. I will be more successful. Right. Not only that, I am not bothered by nurturing my girls. I'm not so much bothered by those particular things that women may have to deal with. So naturally, my company may grow faster. Right? Now, what do you as a feminist want to do, as a toxic feminist? You want to say that my efforts must somehow be disregarded because I made it and a woman didn't? What about the places where women are benefiting in their school system that is failing boys? Why are they not addressing that? Why?
Correct. And
no, it's terrible.
It is. I mean, and we're doing this with children. We're separating children, boys from girls, making them competitive, keeping some back after we've seen where we've come from and seen that doesn't work. It's very, very, very confusing to me. And what does really dishearten to me? I mean, if you are an advocate for women, you would understand the benefit of addressing the issues that men have. I understand that as a male advocate. If I can speak to women and show them the value of co-parenting, show them that, hey, you co-parenting with, and I always show women this, you co-parenting with the father makes your life better. it gives you the opportunity to actually have a social life. It gives him the opportunity and makes him take up his responsibility of nurture and care as well, so that you could move on with your social life. You could take up another study, another direction of study if you want. You could do something else with your life. And it's many a times they are grateful for the advice after. Let me go to clip 3. I know time winding down, where again the host again is showing the value of women appreciating the issues that men have, and the value of men appreciating the issues that women have, so that we can have a united society. And let's see the response that garnished. So let's go. We could play clip 3 and then possibly run straight into clip 4 as well, because they're one after the other. And deal with it
in our society, we actually might be veering a little bit too much into empathy sometimes, in the sense that feelings take on a lot of importance, sometimes at the cost of logic and facts, because it becomes that somebody's losing their job because somebody was offended. You know, like a livelihood is ruined. You know, their ability to provide for their family is ruined because they said something that was out of turn. You know, and that kind of brings me to what you were saying about we need to support not just women, but people. But it's just funny because that was such a great explanation, and I just was waiting to hear the word "and men," you know, and I feel like they get so left out of the conversation sometimes, and a lot of the times you know when you look at us at a tertiary level, women are matriculating and graduating at a much higher rate than men. You know, we're making huge inroads into the corporate world. You know, and men are falling behind. Men are beating us in terms of suicide. That's not really anything to brag about. You know, it's really sad to see what's happening to a lot of men. And I'm not seeing men's empowerment initiatives the way I see women's empowerment.
So we have been hold up. So we have been discriminated, right? All our lives. We have suffered. I mean, you've been putting me down for years. So now not must I only fight to be at the top and fight to do, not be at the top, to be where I want to be. I don't care where you think if it's the top, the bottom, the middle. I want to be here. And I'm fighting for that. But I must now think about your feelings after you stomp me down. Because because
a lot of I must think about you.
No. Because what I'm saying is we as women also have the power to now educate the upcoming generations, the male generation, to say, let's all work together. You understand? But I can't keep saying we as women. It's also
you're saying I don't care about you.
No,
so then it's like we have to educate them to let them know that our needs come before theirs.
Not before. Not before.
Our responsibility.
It's not our responsibility only because and it's not, I'm not blaming an individual man. I'm saying it's like, I mean, oh my gosh, if you continuously hit a gender down and we're feminism, all of that movement is trying to bring the gender to equality, not superiority.
But it does
no. It feels like superiority, but it's equality. Therefore, what we should do is continuously have conversations. And yes, we can be empathetic, but we also have to let them know equality does not equate to superiority. So they themselves have to change their mindset on what our gender equality means.
Let's run into clip 4. Because Sarah, Jean.
I'm blessed. I grew up in a home with Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, and he was dynamic with his wife Viola Burnham, learning, engendering and empowering us as children to see men as allies and also understanding where women could go. So this conversation is interesting because I really didn't face, to me, stereotypes or issues with leadership until much later in life. So for me, what I thought male allies should be was what I saw growing up. And that is supportive, listening to me, telling me when I'm doing wrong, but in a very understanding way. So I never really, I don't know if it sounds privileged. I don't know what it sounds like. But I was happy that they gave me that stepping stone, because then it allowed me to be, dare I say, less expective of that confrontation of you're a girl, you can't. So to me, it was like water on dog back. Like you can't.
Are we on?
Me. So the minute you tell me I can't do something, I go in and do it.
Yeah.
So for me, male allies are listening to me, giving me a male perspective, dare I say, but also letting me know how it might be perceived, my view, and helping me along the way, and me doing the same for them. That really is what I see, and I'm not BSing you at all. It's really what I see.
Asante, allow me to be applying the ointment here. Sorry.
You could be.
But again, I feel like from our conversation before the break, it was like, listen, I have been discriminated, so I had to take all of this, and now you want this, like, you figure it out. It's your responsibility. And I feel like what you're asking from men and what you're expecting from men and what you're appreciating that men gave to you, you were in turn not looking to give to them. You know, that statement of saying, you figure it out. If you're falling behind, it's not my problem. Because that's what I'm saying. So, and I want you to clear it up for me in that sense, you know?
So what I was saying, I was responding to your statement when you said that men are feeling this way. And I said to you, it's not fully our responsibility. So being my ally and you telling me, take care of you and be empathetic because you feel I'm trying to trample you, is two different things. Being my ally is the same thing. It's a two-way street. We're talking, we're having a conversation. You're not seeing me as superior or inferior. We're actually getting to become equal.
Rondell.
Wow.
Mind-boggling stuff. Ted?
Guys, let me just say something. At this point in time, I know the time is running down really quickly. I don't know where this 2 hours is fast, but listen, I really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank God and thank to all the women in our society who still have the wisdom and the presence of mind to recognize that the concept of this toxic feminism is going to carry the nation nowhere. And I really want to thank the women who operate in that level of wisdom. I would not even say anything else. I think the clip, those final 2 clips spoke for themselves.
Yeah. Rondell, you're frozen.
He spoke very, 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 very clearly. I mean, for those who may not have followed, we saw, and I mean, we take our hats off to the host and how she was persistent at bringing across the points. And hear what I just said to you. This is what our men are going through. Our men need us now. Our men need our help now. It was rubbish. It was thrown to the side. Why we must help them? And they have stamped us down. They've kicked us down. Who men have done that? I would love Dr. Asante LeBlanc to tell me which men have done that. I know particularly for our generation, for the last 40 years or so, since I have gone to school, I am 40. Girls had all the opportunity I had. Girls did better than us in school. We were men. We voted for women. We protected women. We did everything that helped and supported women reaching their optimal or maximum potential. What and how and where did she have that experience that she speaks about men stamping her down? Don't even speak about the past, because I often say that thing about patriarchy was patriarchy perpetrated upon society by all men, or was it perpetrated by a class of men? There were men, or particularly men of color, which is primarily our diaspora of African and East Indian, who were not allowed to have certain jobs, who were not allowed to do certain things that white women were allowed to do. So men at a same or similar time, there was a majority of men that were also marginalized together with women, while that class of man, that one class of man, was dominant over everybody else. So now the men of today, who are brown and African men, have to suffer and not get to participate in programs like ICT development programs because of patriarchy that their ancestors were not a part of. I do not like to hear my African women speak like this when it doesn't have any base, doesn't have any basis. When it came to Rosa Parks, when Rosa Parks was on the bus and Rosa Parks was then arrested for not going to the back of the bus. Who were the persons that helped her? The white feminist woman didn't come to help her. White, black African women who couldn't use washrooms and these things. It wasn't white feminists coming to help them to get these rights. It was colored people, men and women together. Men like Nixon, men like Martin Luther King, men like these social activists, together with women who boycott the bus system, together with women and men standing together, who marched up and down for civil rights. So it is mind-boggling to see this level of hate put forward towards men without any real base, without any real sense. Because really and truly, when you look at the history, this man you keep talking about who did this to you and did that to you, was it a man that looked like you? She gave her personal experience about her father and what her father did for her, how he empowered her, how he made her better. So much that the host said, you are saying that you must abandon men today, but you are not seeing that it was a man that has empowered you to greatness. How can you say that? So in closing, I just want to say, Trinidad and Tobago, we must stand against this divisive rhetoric. We must, and I am calling not on feminists, I'm calling on feminine women. I'm calling on men. We are not perfect on either side. We are both flawed on either side. But at the end of the day, we need to find a place to come together. This competitive nature isn't working. And you must be honest to identify, even if it is your woman folk speaking the wrong thing, to state that you must be bold and honest to make that statement and commit yourself against it. Not because they look like you.
Well, Kathy Ann Wills, I must close with her comment here. She said, I pray the day I see the fight for both men and women living harmoniously together as I'm seeing today, tear each other apart.
Well, boy, I hope for the same, but to be quite honest, that's something that needs to come from both parties. We could wish for it, we could pray for it, and I mean, prayer is power and it may come through that. But if we do not call it out, if we do not ask people to stand in support, and we continue to stay silent in the eyesight of foolishness and wickedness, it will thrive and prosper. That is why now we could see all kind of strange people reading strange books to our children, because we stayed silent, we said nothing, and that is why it is now normative to do. We must say something. We must stand together. We must have an objective, a direction that we want our men and women to go together. We must hold to it, and we must reject anything else, whether it comes from man or comes from woman, that would separate it. That is the end of the story.
Thank you so very much, Rondell. Very powerful and informative program today. Very, very much so.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure.
Yes, I know Marlon is listening. Thank you, Marlon and Siobhan. Thank you guys for all locking on and being part of this fantastic edition today.
Bye.
So that's it for today's edition of the Fathers Association here at Power 102 Digital Friday. Every Friday from 4:15 till 6 p.m. You can tune in, log on via Facebook or YouTube, or you can call in at 222-8255 and our toll-free number 866-525-1099 and be part of the program.